So those are some of the questions that seem to be outstanding, right? Because if Citadel's receiving this advanced trade information from Robinhood, I go on my phone, except not me, because I don't believe members of Congress should own individual stocks, so I don't have any. But hypothetically, if I'm on Robinhood and I hit my order along with thousands of other people at that moment, Citadel is potentially able to get that information milliseconds in advance. And in those milliseconds, their trading algorithms could adjust, knowing that advanced execution information. Is that correct?
Yes. And I'll say that since a lot of the Robinhood trades are very low volumes, what they often do is batch them together. And so Citadel might be trading in much larger volumes and then matching the orders as they batch them together. Again, all in this sort of time of many microseconds. But that's what they specialize in doing, is this very, very high speed, high frequency trading, as it's called.
And so I think here, for folks that are watching at home, this is what raises a bunch of questions, not just from me, but also from, I think, this is why this is starting to attract the attention of regulators, members of Congress, etc., because there's a lot of policy questions that come up. Policy questions about shorting stock, policy questions about, as you said, some of this advanced information. You mentioned the Obama administration started to raise some questions about the potential for this. And I think this also is about power, right? Because everyday retail investors don't get that. Even if you were able to, who knows, program something at home, you do not have that millisecond advance information. You just don't have the market power to have that, right?
Right. And I think that's the reason why, yes, lots of people are making money right now. Yes, one or two hedge funds are blowing up, but there's still always going to be a systemic disadvantage that retail has. And that Wall Street is always going to have the advantage. They have more data. As you said, Congresswoman, they're faster. They can execute things faster. And so they're always going to run circles around the little guy, even if it seems like they're losing.
Yeah. And so I think this is something that's important for us to kind of talk about too, because this is ultimately so much of what has made this story, I think, really exciting to people at home, is that at least for this 1 week, at least for these, 3-4 days, it finally felt for so many people at home that are seeing this happen, people were really feeling like everyday people were finally able to collectively organize and get back at the folks who have historically had all the marbles on Wall Street and force one hedge fund into an existential crisis. But that is what has happened in this short window of time, people really feeling this rush of organizing, etc. But it still raises, I think, this overall question of who are all of these rules and who is the concentration of power and money still benefiting and still advantage towards. And some of those underlying rules haven't changed, right? It's still the wealthy and still the powerful.
Right. And I would say that, I'm always the skunk at the garden party here, but unfortunately, when volumes are high, and they've hit record highs this week, Wall Street prints money. They were incredibly profitable in the pandemic when lots of people were trading. I am sure they were incredibly profitable today. This is what they do every day. They trade in, they trade out. They don't care if the market goes up or down. They make money on volatility, and volatility is churn. And so I think the larger question here is, how do we want to design our economy? Do we want to incentivize people who study science to write trading algorithms instead of working on climate change? Do we want people who are graduating with PhDs to pursue these more lucrative jobs on Wall Street, in order to make more money for the wealthy? I mean, look, I did that when I got my computer science degree. I can't say that I would recommend it, but unfortunately, the way we sort of incentivize and organize our society right now, some of the really wonderful brain power is being spent figuring out how to optimize your options trading algorithm.
Yeah.
And I think if we can do some of these bigger, more structural things, and this is, something, Congresswoman, I think we have in common, like if we can cancel student debt, if we can, have a wealth tax, if we can regulate these big, powerful Wall Street actors, we can hopefully start to rearrange the incentives of our society so some of the brightest people aren't, using their PhDs designing trading algorithms on Wall Street. And that's sort of the bigger picture that I hope people think about.
Yeah, no, I mean, that is so powerful. I remember around the time I was graduating college, it was so similar. The folks that were on campus that are recruiting, it's around the time that I graduated, it was, Silicon Valley, it was big banks, consulting groups, etc., that kind of suck up so much of the most talented people in our society, and yet what does that talent go towards? And if it's to make, do we really need physicists making trading algorithms certain milliseconds faster, or do we need that brain power in stopping climate change, or actually, some of that? And even if it's not just STEM fields, but even folks that get picked up by consulting organizations that are really profound generalists, strategists, etc., should that be going there, or should we be creating opportunities? This is one of the big, plug alert, but this is one of the tenets of the Green New Deal. We need to create 20 million jobs across skill sets, from basic labor in actually building infrastructure to some of the most, sophisticated scientific skill sets, and investing and expanding those skill sets. We need to create 20 million jobs across the board minimum in order for us to make the infrastructure and policy changes to match the science of the crisis of our time. And one of the challenges towards that is the fact that so much of our social capital and human capital is being concentrated in arguably some of the wrong sectors at this time, or disproportionately being weighed into certain sectors. So I think you're completely right on that.
I think it makes me think back to the priorities in the CARES Act and the priorities we might even have right now, right? We have a real opportunity to provide people with like a way to actually survive the pandemic and get cash in people's pockets, cancel student debt, change our healthcare system. And is that what we're going to do? Or if we have another market crisis, which like we did last spring, is all of the energy of Congress going to pour into saving the bond market, which I would argue is what happened. And I'm sorry if you can hear my dog.
No, you're
good. Whining. That's the kind of thing that I hope we can sort of reorient ourselves in this new year about what are our priorities and how can we make sure that people can do what they want with their lives and not have to hustle and, pursue the best paying job, but can actually maybe try to contribute to society. But it's going to take policy, right? And so we're counting on you and all of your colleagues, I think, to make that happen.
No, of course. Thank you so much for joining us, Alexis. We really appreciate it and your insight.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman. It's great to be here.
Thank you.